preparing to live stream the meeting. And okay.
Okay. All right. It's a little after 5, June 28th. So we're going to call to order our planning board meeting with the flag salute. Doris, want to do a little flag action?
Okay.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So we have present Larry Perrine, myself, Kay Lawson, Neil Slevin, Ronald Reed, and Megan Toy. Also present, Liz Vale, our attorney, and Kathy Eisman, our consultant. So with that, could I get a motion to approve the minutes taken on May 24th, 2022?
So moved.
And so Larry first and Ron a second?
Second, yeah.
All those in
I'll
favor?
second that.
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Okay. First item on the agenda is the decision on 100 Glover Street, the subdivision. So I think we closed the public hearing at the last meeting with holding on for, what was it, Liz?
I think it was a 15-day written comment period.
Right.
But we have, Kathy has prepared a resolution for the board to review in connection with the pre-application approval or preliminary approval, sorry.
Okay. Kathy?
The one thing that did change from the last meeting was that we received input from the village fire marshal. There was a question from the town fire marshal about whether there was a sufficient water supply for fire protection and the local hydrants. The local fire marshal has reviewed that and has said that the 3 fire hydrants that are nearby are sufficient. So there's no need to connect the water mains. They will be extending the water main slightly to provide water service though to Lot 2. But otherwise the plan is the same. So let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see, this should come up.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is your preamble, a little bit about the project. That the parcel contains 7 buildings, that is Lot 1. The findings of fact are that we have received input from Suffolk County Planning Commission that this is a matter for local determination. That a phase 1A and B archaeological study was performed and found no encounters. And there's my internet being unstable. Can you guys see that?
We can see it now. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then, like I said, the fire marshal had indicated that the hydrants are sufficient, and that I noted that this supersedes the prior letter from the town fire marshal. So there was no question about that because that was part of the public record during the public hearing that we had a discussion about it. Oh, there is something in bad. There is no park fee, Liz. I forgot to take that out.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. Okay, so the conditions of approval, if the planning board were to go forward, this would require the applicant to come back for a final submission for the subdivision, and they'll have to get health department approval. They would need to get comments, if any, from the local agencies, including Suffolk County Water Authority, because the proposed map does show an extension of the water main on Glover Street to serve Lot 2. The next item discusses that proposed Lot 1, once it's divided, would have a building coverage that exceeds the maximum coverage. And it actually does create some nonconformities with respect to side yard setbacks for Lot 2 for a couple of the buildings. So the idea is that the applicant would need to remove these structures or they would need to grant any variances to allow the two lots to be conforming. All sanitary systems are to be removed, and installation of innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems will be required for the new residential constructions. So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay. The applicant will provide below ground utilities in accordance with Chapter 240 of Village Code. And that would be something that was subject to covenants and restrictions. And that's something that would be settled during the final subdivision application. This is standard. Once the lots are created as single family lots, then they will be allowed to build one single family resident plus any accessory buildings or structures that are permitted under Chapter 300 zoning. And the lots would not be permitted to be subdivided again without a prior approval from this board. But the lots are, they do allow for 20,000 square foot or more each. Each of the lots will have to contain stormwater runoff and access to the lot 2, that's the one that only has frontage on Glover Street, would only be allowed to access from Glover Street. And we're saying that the access from Long Island should be removed. Long Island Avenue should be removed and the dirt driveway revegetated. So there will no longer be a second access to lot 1 as well. Finally, there is a naturally vegetated wetland sort of to the north of the property. There is a proposal to revegetate and to create a non-disturbance and non-fertilizer dependent vegetated buffer. And that would be implemented in the future. And that would be something that would be reviewed by the Harbor Committee. So that is the contents of the approval if the board wants to move forward.
Okay. Well, we haven't had, anything at the public hearing. There hasn't been any comments. I don't know if Brian DeSessa is here for the applicant, if he wants to add anything before we kind of move on.
Thank you. I would. Brian DeSessa, attorney for the applicant. In hearing that, just two things came to mind that I asked the board to consider. There was never any discussion about removing access from Long Island Avenue where there is currently access. So that was something that we were not expecting. Of course, if any of the conformities or any of the lots or existing buildings resulted in a non-conformity, if we're not able to take everything down, then that would be subject to zoning, which we're happy to do. But I just it sounded like it was written to condition on something that may or may not happen in the future. So I just wanted to be clear that if zoning is needed, we'll do it. We know this board's not approving anything that's there or not. And I would just ask the board to consider not removing access off of Long Island Avenue, which currently exists.
So, Kathy, what's the logic behind that in the written decision, Kathy and or Liz?
I'll just share my screen again so you can see the map here. So currently there's this access, as you know, from Long Island Avenue. It's really just that this is an opportunity to remove a curb cut on where, generally speaking, when you have a single family home, you have one curb cut. So it's an opportunity there to green this area up and remove an additional curb cut.
I mean, when sometimes on single family lots, aren't there two curb cuts if you have like a circular driveway?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm inclined to stay open-minded about this. So my one thought would be this is something that might be better addressed as the applicant goes through the process of designing and building and submitting all that to all the other boards. And And then, so I don't know, do we need, and I'm open to hearing from the board, and Kathy and Liz, do we need to make it a condition of the subdivision approval? Kathy, what do you think?
It can be removed. Liz, did you want to add something?
I would just say it's the board's preference and it can be removed. It's a recommendation, but it's the board's preference and it can be removed and reconsidered later, you know, when you're considering the final approval, for sure.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree with that.
So we can strike that language.
Well, I could add my 2 cents is that if there's going to be access on Long Island Avenue, it looks like it's very close to that buffer zone towards the wetlands. So maybe it's best that we just stay further away from that. Okay.
I'm okay with leaving it if they want to leave access off Long Island. It's a pre-existing condition. It already exists. They can deal with it later on when they're doing development.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I don't think necessarily I think like what Liz said, this doesn't decide it one way or the other, but it doesn't make it a condition right now of the subdivision.
Correct. And if I could just add one more thing, that when these lots are developed, should this board move forward this evening, this will also be an application before the Harbor Committee, which may have comments on if there is a driveway back there or not. It's also going to be subject to what the ARB lets us do in terms of the removal of buildings. And if we're, going to be repurposing existing buildings because they can't be removed, which may change the configuration of how the lots are done. So I was just looking to not limit those other boards and the development of the lots at a future date.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to, for now, remove that language with the proviso that we may need to revisit this, and or the other boards obviously will visit it as well.
I think that the decision actually addressed Brian's other concern about the demolition of structures. It states that all structures on Lot 1 must either be demolished or granted any and all necessary variances in order to comply.
Great.
So it's one or the other.
Perfect. Thank you, Liz.
Mhm.
Just the driveway, the way it is now, actually does it kind of extends into that area where the future buffer will be. So absolutely, this will be revisited when the planting plan is prepared for the Harbor Committee. So and to make sure that whatever driveway does remain will have to meet the setbacks for the Harbor Committee. So
Right. Okay.
hopefully that helps, Megan. Okay, so I removed that language from item number 6, where we had said, as far as the driveway, limiting the access, I just made it now says access to Lot 2 shall be from Glover Street only.
Okay. So, so then we would adopt, can I get a motion to adopt this resolution as drafted?
Yeah, so moved.
And a second? I see that Megan, just, will you unmute Megan? Because we need you on the record.
Oh, yeah.
A second from Megan. Thanks. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
So carried.
All ayes. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Yep.
Two.
Thanks, Brian. Okay. So moving on. Correspondence requiring action. Dennis Downs is requested a letter from the planning board confirming the approvals are still in effect from 64 Germain Avenue, which to refresh, everyone's recollection was a little while ago. We approved that site plan for the three condos, right, Kathy?
Yes.
And then there was just a question of payment to the village, which I believe I heard from Doris in correspondence that is current. The account is current with the village.
That's correct.
Is there anything else, Kathy?
So the second page of that approval, I can say that the planning board had approved the 3 condominium units. That is correct. The decision actually said that it was subject to modification of the plan prepared by DB Bennett that removed the 4th pool. Remember, I don't know if everybody was here, but they were continuing to show 3 condominiums instead of 4 condominiums, but they still had 4 swimming pools. So the planning board did not approve that part of the modified plan. They also wanted a couple of things modified on the plan to be consistent with the architect's plans, which had to do with relocation of the driveway to be consistent with the architect's plan, as well as there is one area where there's a stormwater dry well within the driveway, and they have to make sure that that is weight bearing. So those were the 3 things that were conditions that needed to be put on the plans by DB Bennett. So that way, you know, because it was a conditional approval. So I'm not aware of anything having been submitted with these changes. However, I think what the health department is concerned with is the number of units. So there is some time here we could provide a letter that the planning board says that yes, it was, however, that they did not approve 4 pools. They only approved the 3 pools. So
Okay.
that's where I am with it.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Dennis is on. I see Dennis. Hello, Mr. Downs.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah, we just were waiting for the health department approval to come in, and then we were going to come back to the building department with all the changes on the site plan rather than piecemealing it.
Okay.
Because I got the same problem. They also asked for, Kathy, maybe you can help me on this. They also asked for the conservation board, the
Wetlands permit.
the wetlands permit. Yeah, I'm mixing myself up with the town. The village wetlands board, meaning the harbor committee, that they also issue a letter. And Chick got all tied up with like 3,500 pages in a file. So maybe if you're talking with him, you can mention to him that all he needs to do is look at the last approval that they made, which was the 3 units, and it's still in existence. It hasn't expired. That's all I need from him, and then I can get the health department approval, come back with all the modified plans that the building inspector will probably review with you or someone to show that we've complied with all your requests.
Okay. Kathy?
So I mean, I can certainly talk with Chick about this. What I remember happening was that the architect's plans that were submitted were at a different scale than the plans that were originally submitted. So we had to play around with overlaying the plans and trying to figure out how they compared as far as setbacks. So that might be something that will be useful for the harbor committee to show that. And I believe that this is what happened, is that it actually is a greater setback from the wetlands than was previously approved by the harbor committee. So a modified wetlands application permit may not be a problem, or at least a letter saying that they will issue such a thing. But I can definitely assist with that.
Okay, thank you.
So then for today's purposes for our board, my understanding is that Dennis is requesting a letter, and that Kathy is suggesting that we have a letter that says we've approved 3 units with 3 pools, and the plans as currently submitted need to be revised. I don't know if that needs to be in the letter or not, Kathy. But
I think as long as it's clear to the health department that it's 3 units and 3 swimming pools, I don't think they mind. They don't really get into the other stuff.
yeah, so I would say if the board agrees that we could do a letter saying those approvals are still in force for the 3 units and 3 pools. Does that sound good to the board? Any questions?
Okay.
I don't think do we need to vote on that, Liz? Liz, you're muted. Yes, we need to vote on it.
Yeah, I would vote.
Okay, so then could I get a vote, or, a motion to vote on that 3 units, 3 pools letter?
So moved.
Somebody was just talking, but maybe that was background noise. Okay. Ron moved a second. Larry, thank you. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Okay. Did I get an aye from Megan, for the record?
Sorry, I guess,
Okay.
yeah, aye.
Aye, thanks. Okay. Okay, all right.
Okay, so we'll work on that. Kay, I'll run it by you before I
Great.
send it out.
Great.
Brand
Thank
list.
Thank you.
It's going to be very simple, so.
Okay, so the next item is 37 John Street and 12 West Henry Street. This is the, I guess, approval for signing of the final map for lot line modification. I think Kathy mentioned in correspondence that they hadn't put on the map one of the conditions, which was that no further subdivision would be allowed. Is that right, Kathy?
Yeah, they've since have
added that?
updated that map. Yes.
So now are we good to go, Kathy?
Yeah, absolutely. And Liz prepared some language just for the resolution that I will share on my screen as long as I don't lose it. Let's see. For your consideration. There you go. Make it a little bigger. Can you see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
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 So could I get a motion to adopt this resolution, which we conditionally approved back in January?
I'll move it.
Okay, in a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Okay, so then your job, Kay, is to go sign the maps.
You got it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Be happy
Fine.
applicants. Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, and then the final item on the agenda is Vax Enterprises, 31 Long Island Avenue, review of a traffic impact study prepared by David Schiavone, dated June 20th, 2022. So Doris distributed that by email, and then it was in everyone's packets. Yeah, I think Kathy, just share where we are with this at this moment overall.
Yeah, we're kind of in this kind of limbo place at this moment because we are awaiting a revised site plan that shows the proposed improvements as they are today. We did get a floor plan, but we didn't get an updated site plan. And we had requested also that an environmental assessment form be submitted for the proposed project because the proposed use as a convenience store is a lot more intense possibly than some of the other retail uses that were formally permitted under the prior approval, I guess, because this is the office district, but they have some grandfathering for the prior uses because of the unique situations here. We had also asked that a parking analysis be done because there's a limited number of parking spaces, and this is going to be a lot of people coming in and out of there for a convenience store. So that would have to be prepared as well. So I didn't want to do a piecemeal review either of I have to get a traffic engineer to look at the traffic study. I'd have to get a traffic engineer to look at the parking study, and I'd like them to look at it all together once they have a site plan. So
That makes sense,
full EAF.
right? So
Kathy, this is Dennis Downs, if I can interject right for the moment. Is there anything else other than the normal material that you would want in the EAF? That's the only thing I've been waiting for to file. I have an EAF ready to go. I just didn't know whether there was going to be anything different that you may want added to it.
Well, I mean, the major items are the traffic study and the parking analysis. I would go through the part 2 requirements and see if anything seems to exceed, a minor or up to a major, potentially significant adverse impact. So it's, it's all of those, drainage and groundwater protection, all of those items. But not the one that was triggered in my mind was, traffic and parking because of the level of activity.
Okay, on the issue of the site plan hasn't changed at all. The building is identical to what it has been throughout all these various iterations. I can have it updated, just put a new date on it if you want.
So, but the way, if you go back to some of the earlier reviews, the site plan actually was incomplete in the past. So go back and look at those. And I would also look at things like the entrances, because there were several entrances in the prior plans because there were going to be several retail uses.
Yeah, well, we eliminated the extra entrance in order to save the parking on the street. That was something that was discussed with the planning board a long time ago. So we only have one entrance.
I meant entrances to the building.
To the building? Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
So it has to reflect the floor plans. So the site plan needs to be consistent, and you have to do all the ADA accessibility, show that you have accessible routes. You have to show topo and drainage and all the things that are required for a site plan application. So I mean, if you went back to some of the earlier reviews, you'll find those comments.
Okay, thank you.
So just, I think, thanks for that, Kathy. I just think, Mr. Downs, just for clarity purpose, the board would like to see that revised site plan with as much, reasonable detail as possible for this proposed, and it is a different use. I would imagine there would be some changes from that old site plan for this use. That there needs to be the parking analysis submitted as well with that. And whose dogs are barking, but just mute for a second, maybe.
That's me.
And I'll, Larry, I'll let you talk in a second. So with the parking analysis, the revised site plan, and then the full EAF, and then submit that with the, I forget what the timing is now on that, Doris. I'm just saying for it to be on, for us to have a proper discussion
Right.
at the next meeting, or
Okay.
that those things would need to be submitted by what date, Doris?
For, let's see, our next meeting is July 26th. So at least a week prior.
Okay.
That does not give us enough time to review it. So that's always the issue. But
What would you need, Kathy? Do you think this, I mean, let's just, be realistic then, because I
Right.
don't.
Right.
well, we need a few weeks at least. I mean, usually for a site plan, we need over a month. But since we have seen this before, we know what we're looking for, and we have we know the items that had not been addressed in the past. The traffic study, I will have to refer to our traffic engineer, and hopefully, they'll have time to do that rather quickly. The parking study as well, but it's best to do those together with the site plan as well. So.
All right.
So
So why don't we've done this in the past where we have a harbor committee until the application is deemed complete. We can go ahead and put it on when you deem it complete, Kathy. That's how harbor committee works with reports, and Chick issues a report deeming it complete and ready for a public hearing versus.
yeah,
We would need to recirculate it, right, Liz? We're going to have to re-coordinate. You're on mute, but I think I see you nodding your head.
Apologies, yes, I have to re-coordinate. But I think that it is incomplete until, and this is in a prior memo that was written by Kathy and sent to Dennis in writing. I think he knows what he has to submit for it to begin to be reviewed by Kathy and her office. So, yeah, I think it's incomplete until it's actually submitted for review.
Okay.
And, I don't know if it's enough time for him to get all the changes done on his plans. It's always the turnaround between getting the changes, getting it submitted, and then also getting it reviewed before the next meeting. But
So it sounds like that might not be possible for the next meeting, but that if the applicant's able to get everything over to Kathy's office, that all those things we just discussed, that then they can do their review and hopefully it can be at maybe the August meeting.
If I can make a suggestion, why don't we leave it on the July calendar and we can report back to you as to what has been accomplished?
I'm not inclined to do that right now because it just needs to be, the submission needs to be complete, and then Kathy needs to be able to do her review.
I agree with that. I think, this was an opportunity for Dennis to tell you that he did do a major part of the application, which is the traffic study, which is a big hurdle. So that's great that it's been submitted, but it still needs to be complete before it should be on the agenda again.
So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, also, just as part of the record, we're moving the door of this new convenience store about 95 feet from where it is now, where it used to be. And the former tenant, the former 7-Eleven at the West Water Street shops, shared a parking lot with 7 or 8 other businesses and offices. So this is going to be a dedicated space on the site strictly for the convenience store. So, just take that into consideration when you're doing your review. We don't have less parking. We got the same amount of parking or more. Plus, we got everything that's on the street.
I would also suggest one last thing on the parking is the site distance. Analysis of the site distance when you're coming out of that parking lot should take into consideration the on-street parking spaces that are there and visibility. I didn't see a site distance evaluation in the traffic study, but that might be something that could be added to the parking study. And Larry, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Larry.
No? Okay.
Yeah, can I just ask something concerning this property? So since the last time we've seen this, the ordinance has changed. We have new ordinances with affordable housing, incentives and height changes. And I'm just, not that anything has to change, I'm just wondering if the client has taken that into consideration.
I can answer that right now. The answer is we are not going to go any further with a second story or anything else to deal with affordable housing. We made that offer to the zoning board years ago and we got shut down immediately. They didn't want a 3-story building. They didn't want a 2-story building. They wanted a 1-story building. We finally came up with a 1-story building that satisfied the needs of the client and his tenant. And we're not going to now delve into, let's try to go with affordable housing where there's no additional parking that we could provide, even though the new code says you can avoid having to provide off-street parking for affordable housing, et cetera. We're just not going to go down that route. The client has had it as far as spending money on architect's fees, designing and redesigning a building. I mean, we've gone from 3 stories to 2 stories to 1 story, and it's going to stay at 1 story.
Okay. Yep. I was just curious because I know.
No, it's unfortunate that these codes weren't in effect 3 or 4 years ago, because we certainly would have considered it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Okay, so I think at least I'm clear on where things need to be. It seems like Mr. Downs, you seem to know what you need to submit, and
Right.
then we need to do a review.
I know what we need to do. Question is how quickly we can get it done and how quickly it can be reviewed.
Okay,
And I appreciate your time tonight.
thank you. All right. Thanks so much. All right, with that, unless there's anything else, could I get a motion to adjourn? Actually, wait, the next meeting is July 26th, correct, Doris?
Yes, that is correct, July 26th.
That will be in person. And then my impression from the new local law is that they're all going to be in person from now on. Is that right, Liz?
We need at least a quorum to be present, physically present in person. Yes. And there's a policy resolution that should be sent to all board members as well from the village board, that there was required by state law that they actually adopt that. So
Okay.
the policies that go along with the video conferencing.
So then just to clarify that, so what that would mean is that, let's say, for example, there's someone on the board that wants to participate in the meeting, but can't be there physically. They could participate by Zoom so long as there's a quorum of people physically present.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And the
So-
public is supposed to also be able to participate via Zoom or video conferencing as well.
Okay. All right. With that, could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right. All those in
There you
favor?
go.
Aye.
Hey,
So carried. All right. Thanks, everyone, so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Happy 4th of July.
great.
Yes.
You too. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah, soon.
Happy
Good night.
July.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.